Hey guys. So I've got my coffee here. During this social isolation time, my husband and I are still lucky enough to have jobs. Of course, things, go back and forth with furloughs or having to stay home or having to go to work. But for now, we pretty much still have jobs, and I'm very thankful for that, and some people don't. So if you want to help out, I'll put a link in the description for a charity that you can support that helps people. But for now, I'm just going to do a video about 10 authors that I need to read or that I have been wanting to check out for a while, and just talk to you chill time, coffee time about that. So I have a list here of 10 authors that either I haven't ever read a book by and I've just heard people talking about books, or I've seen books on shelves and they've interested me, or ones that I've read some collaboration piece that they've done, and so I want to check out a book just by them. And so yeah, that's what this is. I want to read Rainbow Rowell. I know this is an author that everyone knows about in the YA community, but I have yet to read anything written by them. And some of their books include Fangirl, which I know is about a girl who writes fan fiction or something, and I've heard it's really good. I've heard of Landline, which I don't know what that one's about, but it did sound interesting at the time enough for me to take notes on it. Also, Attachments sounds really fun. These are some of the older books. I don't know any of the newer books that they've written because I haven't really looked into it much. But either way, those are some of the books by them that I want to check out, and I think they would be really fun. And YA is just a really fun thing for me to read. I enjoy it a lot, and I've been reading it a lot more this year, and I hope to read more of it. Nick Cutter. Okay. I only know that they write messed up stories. My Reading is Odd reviewed The Troop not too long ago on her channel. It sounded fantastic to me. Like body horror, gross, just infection. Like this troop is trapped on an island and things start happening to them, and it just sounds terribly nasty horror, and it just enthralls me. Like, I'm excited to check that out someday. They've also written The Deep and Little Heaven, and I really like the aesthetic of their book covers. I think that they look really cool, and I like the font choice and everything, just aesthetic. And I hope to read their books because I really like, horror stories and thrillers and just monster-y stories. Those sound really fun to me. Next is Josh Malerman. You probably know who this is because Bird Box was such a big thing on Netflix, but I want to read Bird Box eventually. I've seen people say that they love it, or people who are like, this was boring, the show was better or whatever, but I still want to read it. Also, there's Inspection, which I've heard not great things about, but I think I might enjoy the audiobook of that if it has one. I think it might be better that way, honestly, just listening to how it sounds. A House at the Bottom of the Lake. This is like a novella, and I've heard Bosin Lala talk about this. I've also heard Gabby talk about this. Anyone I talk about, I'll be sure to link them in the description below so you can go check out their channel, by the way. But they seem to really like it, and it's short, and it just sounds really interesting and creepy and weird and right up my alley. So I really want to check out their books. Christina Lauren. This is one that I'm still not 100% on, but there are a couple books by them that I'm really interested in. It's a writing duo as far as I know. It's two different women, and they just combine their efforts and write books. Autobiography sounds really fun to me. I think it's a queer story about these boys, but that's literally all I know about it, and the cover is absolutely stunning, and I really want to read it because it sounds good. There's also The Unhoneymooners, which is a romance, I think, and it sounds fun. I know their romances are hit or miss, honestly, from what I've been hearing, but I still am interested in myself. And then there's Twice in a Blue Moon. The cover's gorgeous. It sounds fun. I want to read it. Shannon McGuire or Mira Grant. It's the same author, and they have Every Heart a Doorway series, which is like, these teens who are in magical worlds like Alice in Wonderland, and I'm just kind of guessing based off what people say in reviews. It's like if Alice came back to the real world and she's having to deal with that kind of thing, with like kids who go to different lands, like magical stories, and then they have to come back to the real world and deal with it. And I think it's like a boarding house that like takes care of these kids or something, or like an orphanage or something. I don't know, but it has to do with like fairy tale story kids, and I'm just really interested in that. That sounds really fun, and they're really short books, so I feel like it would be very easy to get into, and it wouldn't take a ton of dedication. Even though there's a bunch of books in this series, I still think it'd be really fun to read, and the covers look really cute. and I just want to check them out. And then also the Mira Grant books are a little more dark. Maybe that's what the difference is that the subject matter is different. But there's Into the Drowning Deep, and that sounds really fun. It's like a mermaid horror story that like emphasizes on like the ocean and like monster mermaids, and that just sounds really fun. Like that sounds right up my alley. Next we have Lisa Jewell, who writes a lot of thrillers, domestic thrillers, mystery type books. Never read anything by them. They have Watching You, which has been on my radar for a few months, and I really want to check that one out. The Family Upstairs, which is fairly new, sounds interesting. And Then She Was Gone, which is also fairly new. All of these sound really good and just kind of reminiscent of how I feel looking at a Ruth Ware book, but I'm hoping that they're better than Ruth Ware, because I don't hate Ruth Ware, but also I'm kind of usually disappointed by Ruth Ware. So I just want to check out Lisa Jewell to see if it's any better, if it's similar, because I need more of that in my life. Colleen Hoover. I only know about a couple of books by them. Verity sounds really interesting, and I've heard so many people talk about this book and how good it is, but I've also heard some very polarizing opinions on it, so I want to know what I think about it. So that one, and also Ugly Love, It Ends With Us, you know, those books sound really interesting to me, so that's just an author I want to check out someday. Next up is Joe Hill. Now, I did review a audiobook by Joe Hill and Stephen King not too long ago, and it was very Stephen King, so I'm assuming Joe Hill is very similar to Stephen King. I don't know if he is like almost identical to Stephen King in writing, or if he's more on the horror side or what, but I want to read a book just by him because I'm very, very interested in him, because he obviously stems from greatness. Stephen King is someone that I really, really love their writing, and so I want to check out Joe Hill. And I know that he wrote things like Nosferatu, which is a thick book that I'm kind of intimidated by. Heart-Shaped Box, which I do own a copy of in my shelves. I've heard it's really good. And then Lock and Key, which is a comic book series that I really want to check out. It's also like co-written from someone. I can't remember who co-wrote it with him, but it's very, very good looking, and everyone talks about it, and I think there's a series on Netflix of it now, so I gotta check that out soon. We have C.J. Tudor. Has written only a few books as far as I know. I was looking at the list of all the books that these authors have written when I was digging through. The Chalk Man sticks out. It sounds a little bit like It, in the small town group of friends vibe. It sounds fun. It's a really short book, honestly, and I just want to check it out. It sounds fun. It sounds really creepy and kind of fantasy monster type thing, but like scary, so it just sounds fun. It's something that I'm very interested in. And also there's The Hiding Place and The Other People, which is a newer book. I know a lot of people have read that one lately. I don't know anything about it though. Sally Thorne. This person has only written a couple of books that I know of, but they wrote The Hating Game and 99% Mine, which both sound fun. I've heard The Hating Game is way better. I know Chelsea Darling Reads raves about The Hating Game and has read it a billion times, and I just want to check it out myself and see if I like it, because I've tended to like a lot of the romances that she's read, so I think that it would be good because I like her recommendations. But that is it for the 10 authors that I want to check out. Maybe someday in the future I'll do a reaction to this video and see if I've read any of those authors by the time I do this. Hopefully I will have read some of them, if not all of them. At least one book, because that's my goal, is to read more authors, read more women. I tend to read a lot of male authors, and just happenstance, not on purpose. I would also like to read some more representation books, books that are written by people of other ethnicities and abilities and disabilities, and I want to check out all kinds of diverse authors and subject matters, so I'm just trying to diversify what I read, but also I go back to my comfort zone and read what I like to read. So, you know, if you have any recommendations based off of these authors, please let me know in the comments below. I love recommendations based off of the type of reading I like. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.